podcast where we chat about all things Christian fiction. I'm your host, author, and insatiable reader, Shatona Havig. And guys, I've been waiting for this interview for so long because I actually have his books in my book, which sounds really weird, but I've been waiting for this one to come out because when I researched it, I was like, I need to read this and I can't because it's not available yet, but it's available in my book because my book takes place past today. I love it. Anyway, so welcome, Clint Hall. He is the author of Echo Nova. There's another one that I'm forgetting the name of, something about fire and whatever, but there's Echo Nova, and then Worlds Collide is coming out in mid-July, which this is just after that. Sorry, guys. It's what happens. So welcome, Clint. And what was that other one about fire or something? Or was it not fire?
This is off to such a great... So, sometimes I get like 21 seconds into a podcast and I'm like, I know I'm in good hands. And that's where I'm at right now. This is my debut is called Steal Fire from the Gods. It is a
Yes. I knew there was something about fire and God, and I'm like, no, it's not a fire god.
If people would have put what you just said, the transcript into Google, they'd have got there eventually. They'd have figured it out. Yeah.
There you go. Oh, goodness.
Thank you for having me. Oh, I'm sorry. I should do like the guest. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here. Wow.
Yeah, because whatever. Guys, we've been yapping. I've been telling him about my ridiculousness.
Oh, are we pulling back the curtain? This is great. Good.
I tell you, I'm an open book, and it's one that most people don't want to read, but too bad, so sad. It's out there. It's like a billboard.
Well, the funny thing about that, I host a podcast too. What people never hear is the podcast before the podcast and the podcast after the podcast,
right?
Which is really, and I always tell people, because I kind of coach people sometimes on how to be a good podcast guest, and I always tell them, don't go away as soon as the recording's done, because that's when the real talk happens.
Right? Exactly. And then all the things that you say, we should have talked about.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, totally.
It's crazy. It is just crazy. So I've got to know, because obviously you're with Enclave, which is a fabulous company to be with. I love everything that I've read that they've put out, and I haven't read enough of it because I haven't read all of it. That means I haven't read enough of it. But although I have to say that of any publisher on the planet, they are the ones that ticked me off the most once.
Okay.
I was so ticked.
Me too.
They gave away the entire twist of a book in the tagline. And I was like, what were you not thinking? I was so mad.
What book was it?
Anyway.
What, do you remember?
For Whom the Sun Sings. Guys, if you read that book, and you should absolutely read For Whom the Sun Sings by Fulkerson. It was fabulous. Don't read the inside flap of the desk. Just don't. Please, I'm begging you. Okay, I'm fine.
When did that book come out? That's got to have been a minute.
It's been 6 years, maybe 5 years.
You're still hanging on to it, though.
Yes, I'm that mad. There's this giant twist in the middle of the book, and you kind of barely see it coming. I'm so glad that I didn't read it, because afterwards, when I was copying and pasting to put it in my show notes, because I was doing an entire episode on this book that I just loved, right? And I was like, oh my gravy, the tagline, that gives everything. What are you doing? I was mad. I wrote them. They were not impressed.
Did you really?
I didn't care. Yes.
I can't wait to have this conversation with them. This is everything.
I'm still irritated.
This experience has already far exceeded my wildest expectations, and I'm so happy.
This is great. So guys, I was telling him before we got on here that when I was writing crosswords, I was trying to find some book that was coming out that, what's his name, Judah would have been reading. And I needed something, that he would enjoy, but also that he could recommend to a 15-year-old. It couldn't be released yet, but it needed to be soon. I had all these things, and one perfect little book fit there. And it's this book that just came out as of the release of this episode 2 weeks ago, Worlds Collide. And I keep wanting to put when in front of it.
When Worlds Collide.
Thank you for not.
No problem. I was really glad that the title I was terrified that the title was going to get changed. I wrote this book over 10 years ago. So it's been Worlds Collide in my head for like a decade or more. And I've had to change titles on books before. Echo Nova, which was originally called Time Star. And we had to change it because good reasons. And I was so glad when it went through and everybody kind of gave the thumbs up to where I know it was because retitling Echo Nova took forever. I went through pages and pages and pages of notes trying to figure out what to call that book. Although I'm happy we're where we landed. Echo is a great title, but
it is a great title.
I have title rules. My title, it has to be simple, easy to spell, and it has to be like if you were to say it to someone over the phone, like they would know what you were saying. And so that's especially with sci-fi, that's a harder needle to thread than you think it is. You don't want to use one of your made up words as a title. At least I don't. So.
No, it's too difficult.
It is
for people to remember. They want to be able to go and type in something close enough that they find it. But if it's a jumble of letters that they've never seen before,
right?
It's just I do that with character names. I don't give them, as at least main characters that they're going to see over and over, I don't give them bizarre names that people haven't seen very much. I keep it really close to familiar, because the last thing they want to do is go, oh, I really love that. Well, that one.
Well, there is a ton of that in Worlds Collide. Although Worlds Collide is space opera, so I think I can get away with it. But yeah, I was thinking about my favorite books, and all of them simple titles: World War Z, Ready Player One, Red Rising. Like, these are all really simple titles. And I was like,
short and snappy is what I like.
Exactly. So
I don't love books with super long titles. They generally don't work. Once in a long while.
Sometimes somebody nails it though.
I'm like, okay, yeah. Right. I mean, okay, the Guernsey book, Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. It is the longest, most ridiculous title, but it works.
But it fits.
It makes you want to know why on earth this is the title. So it works, but most of the time, no.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm with you on that. I am totally. Although I have to admit, while I was writing crosswords and I was working on this Worlds Collide scene, it's starting up in my head again because it did it so much. It put an earworm of Roger Miller's When Two Worlds Collide in my head that I could not get rid of.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I was a little bit worried about it because it is a super common phrase, but it's just the perfect title. And when Steve, so people know it's Steve Lobby who runs Enclave Publishing, and when he called me, and that was one of the first things he said. He's like, the title's perfect. We're not touching the title. So that was just a huge relief. It's nice when one of my favorite things about publishing with Enclave, and this goes far beyond the title, is knowing how many filters it has to pass and people whose opinion I really respect, how many of those people it has to go through before it gets into the hands of a reader. And that goes a long way too. I mean, even with Steel Fire, Steel Fire dealt with a lot of really dark themes. I was going through a little bit of a crisis of faith when I wrote Steel Fire, and that's a lot of what that's. I mean, the book's about magic robots, but not really, right? The book is really about a character going through a crisis of faith, and it was very comforting. It's probably the best word, to have that story go through the editors that it went through and have them say, yeah, this is good, this is okay. Like you're not saying anything here that we feel like you shouldn't. Because the story in some ways goes to some dark places. And I was a little bit like, am I taking this too far? So it's one of the, there's a lot of things that I love about working with Enclave, but that is certainly one of my favorites.
I can imagine. I have huge, enormous respect, not just for Steve Lobby and Enclave, but for how Steve Lobby has handled Enclave from day one through all the changes and to today. He is. I have so much respect for that guy. So much respect.
They hold everything they do to such a high level of excellence. Everything and what's funny is I love bragging on the aspects of my books that had nothing to do with me, like the cover. I love bragging on the cover because I didn't have anything to do with the cover.
Stunning.
And the interior design is done by Jamie Foley for the most part. I think on most of their books, certainly on all of mine, and it's beautiful. And the stuff they do is gorgeous, and the editing is fantastic. Every single editor at Enclave who has touched one of my books has made it better in a significant way, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. And the marketing that they do is fantastic. They just hold themselves to such a high standard. And the best word is respect. I respect it so much. I'm so honored to be an Enclave author.
I'm also really excited. Okay, guys, right now you need to hit pause. Go over to Google or Amazon, wherever you like to look for books, and look up this book. Enclave is a great option. I'm just throwing that out there. But you gotta look at this cover. It is absolutely stunning. It has everything you want from something sci-fi. It has everything you want from a really punchy book, but it also is beautiful at the same time without being cliche. It's not the same galaxy
Yeah.
purple and blue across the cover with a couple of planets thrown on there.
Right. It's got just enough of a retro futuristic vibe
Yeah.
that I just love, honestly. And again,
So cool.
it's nothing that I would have ever thought of. Like not at all, really. And it's just and I'm so great. It's being part of a team is awesome, because now when I pick up one of my books, I think about all the other people who worked on it and how incredible they are, so it's such a privilege to be able to work with them.
It is great. And guys, this if you're looking, I'm looking on Amazon because Shatona, and it says Worlds Collide, and then in the lovely parentheses that always make my heart sing, it says Worlds Collide Trilogy, Book One.
Yes.
Yeah. Trilogy?
Trilogy. I know. My first time, actually. So I wrote this book more than 10 years ago. And this was a story. It was an idea that came to me when I was actually working on another book. And I tend to work from home as a marketing copywriter. Most of my work is generally remote. And my wife got home from work, and we didn't have kids yet. I took her for a walk, and I pitched her the idea. And she was like, "Yes, we have to do this next." And over a decade, even while I've been putting out other stuff, when we take long walks or we go to dinner or whatever, this is the story that we talk about, and sometimes it's about the story itself, but sometimes we would just have dinner and just talk about the worlds. And she would help me world build and think of the creatures that were in these different worlds and, what these characters were going. And it was more than just like being productive. Honestly, it was just something for us to share. So, and when you open the book, on the dedication page, it says for Stephanie, and it should say for Stephanie and also with Stephanie, because so much of this was just me enjoying my marriage with my wife and creating these worlds with her. So I loved the experience of writing it so much that even though a lot of people would tell you not to do this, as soon as I was done, I didn't have a contract, I didn't have an agent, I didn't have anything. I started writing book 2 just because I wasn't ready to leave this galaxy. So that's what I did. So by the time I signed the publishing contract, I already had the first 2 books written. And it was actually just recently that I finished writing the first draft of book 3. So, yeah.
I'm so excited. Okay. Yep. So now that we have talked all around the book, maybe we should actually tell our listeners
I'm terrible at this part.
This book is.
I'm terrible at this part. I'm the worst at it. I know. Because see, I'm a podcast host too. I like talking about other people's things. So I've discovered this about myself through being a published author. I love being the center of attention. I do. I like being on stage. I like talking. I'm a musician. I do all the things. I don't like talking about myself, though. I like being the center of attention, but pointing to somebody else and talking about it. So anyway, I'm sorry. Okay. This book, basically the idea is that 10,000 years ago, these 5 cosmic entities, a phoenix, a dragon, a serpent, a lion, and a wolf, decided to have a contest of the gods to decide, which among them was the greatest god. So, and what better test of a god than creation, of course. So they each create their own world with an inhabiting warrior race, and they set them on a 10,000-year journey toward the collision point. So if nobody does anything at all at the end of the 10,000 years, all 5 worlds are going to crash into each other and everybody's going to die. That sounds like it's pretty hopeless. It's because it kind of is. The only hope for you to survive is for your world to destroy the 4 rival planets before the end of that 10,000 years. So in book 1, I have 5 main characters, 1 on each world, who in their own unique ways are fighting for their planet's survival. But as they start sort of interacting with the other worlds, and as these worlds start getting closer together, they start sort of noticing some things that maybe things aren't perhaps the way that they've always thought they were, and that maybe there is some kind of some other powers that may be at work in this galaxy. And I can't say anything more than that without starting to get into spoiler territory, but that is Worlds Collide.
So excited. I'm so excited. Okay. I gotta know. Obviously, world building with your wife was one of the most fun things that you had to do with this. Yeah. So I won't ask because we've already answered that question. Sure. But what was the hardest, worst? I don't even want to keep going, but I've got to because I want to do all the fun stuff again. What was that whatever the thing is that you just go, ugh, on this one?
It wasn't necessarily, I don't know if I ever got to that point with this story. I really enjoyed putting this story together, but certainly the hardest thing was thinking about timelines. When you're thinking about these different characters and what they're each going through, trying to sync up the different timelines that are happening. This is a big expanse. This is by far the biggest thing I've ever written, the most ambitious, sort of the most epic. And trying
10,000
to
years is a long time.
10,000 years. The trilogy doesn't take place over 10,000 years. I skipped ahead a lot. but and this is no spoiler. By the time we start book one, they're pretty close. There's not a whole lot of time left, but
which is even better.
Well, which is definitely better. As a matter of fact, and again, not necessarily a spoiler, you find this out immediately. The dragons and the phoenix have already been going at it for decades. The phoenix have lost, and the dragon, they're called the Rodraku. The dragons have already enslaved the phoenix people on their own planet, and they're forcing them to mine it for resources. So, so we've already had a lot of stuff going on before the book even starts, but figuring out how everything was going to sync up across these different storylines was certainly, because I wanted this to feel very sort of carefully crafted, and it certainly was, but that was definitely the most difficult part. The other thing that was difficult, but this might have honestly been one of the things that I enjoyed the most. I'm a huge fan of the hero's journey as observed, I guess you would say, by Joseph Campbell, the monomyth, right?
Right.
And each of these characters certainly has a hero. Matter of fact, even in book one, each character has a fairly complete character arc. Now, of course, the story isn't done at book one, but figuring out how to come at that from different directions for different characters was very difficult, but also very rewarding. And it forced me to do a lot of deep character work and thinking about what does each character need and how do I take them on that journey toward where they're going, but while also telling this whole complete story, right? So and then after I finished, now what I'm doing is I'm looking, okay, how do I do that across 3 books? And then this is a trilogy that's going to reward deep reading. There's people are going to see a lot of mirrors as they go through book 1, 2, and 3, certain things that are called back, certain things that are paid off, certain things that are sort of symmetrical, and all that stuff is by design. Very, very difficult, but I also really, really enjoyed it.
I can see that, because it would be really easy to turn all of these journeys into kind of a smudgy one note.
Sure. Right.
And that's not going to be rewarding. So thank you very much for not doing that.
I didn't do that. I hope. Well, who knows? Listen, we don't have all the reviews yet. We're recording, to pull back, we're recording this a couple months before it comes out. Who knows? Maybe this whole thing will flop and it'll be a smoldering, pile of ashes by the time this podcast goes on.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
We'll see.
For one thing, Steve Lobby is too good to let that happen. He would not have accepted this if it wasn't going to be good. So I'm just... Even if you don't have confidence in yourself, you got to have confidence in him.
What I like about that is that if it's bad, people blame him, right? I mean, really, this is Steve's fault. If you didn't like the
book,
yeah.
I mean, no.
Yeah. Steve Lobby at Enclave Publishing. His address is. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I just noticed something while you were talking, and this is kind of silly, but I can't help it. I'm still kind of like obsessing over this cover, and I just realized something completely unexpected.
Okay.
The typeface they used for Worlds Collide,
yes.
It's very minimalistic, very clean, sans serif, the whole 9 yards. But there is this tiny little whimsical lift on the R in Worlds.
You're right.
That is totally unexpected. You don't, with all of the other letters, there's nothing. You don't expect that, but it's there. Just this tiny little, like, I want to be a serif, so I'm gonna sort of.
That's an Easter egg. R is the most important letter in the entire trilogy. You'll. I'm just kidding.
I was starting to get impressed there. I'm just saying.
I'm so not that smart. I'm so not that smart, y'all. So much. Nothing I do is on purpose. So much of the. Do you have this thing? How often do you write something that you feel like I totally didn't mean to do that and it worked out awesome? Does that happen to you a lot?
Yeah, that's called me writing.
Yeah, that's the best though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll think it's terrible when I go to bed. I'll be like, okay, well, that's got to go, but maybe I can salvage something tomorrow. Right. I'll go to bed. I'll get up. I'll do my thing. I'll sit down. I'll reread to find out what I can save. And I'm like, wait a minute.
You reread?
I kind of like that.
Do you reread as
Actually,
you go along?
yeah.
You do?
I do what?
I don't know if I could do that.
I
I,
have
I
to.
think I
When I have one of those sections that I think I have to cut, I totally reread.
before you're done with the draft.
Yeah, if I think I'm gonna have to cut it, absolutely, because I want to salvage what is good, get rid of the bad, and then go forward. But most of the time, I literally start at day one of my book and I end at the end, and we're done. Then I
Right.
can go back and change stuff. But if I think it was bad and it has to come out,
Yeah.
then yes, I absolutely reread.
Or would it just drive you crazy if you didn't go back and redo it? Is it that kind of thing?
Well, because of how I write, I
Yeah.
have the hardest time. Like, I can't write out of order because I can't weave stuff in the same. So
Mm,
here I've got this. I know there's got to be something in that that is actually good. I want to
right.
save that sentence or that,
Right.
attitude or whatever. So if I write and just skip it and just start over, there's a very good chance that I'm going to write in a way that I've got this great little thing that I can't use now. And
Mm.
that'll bug me. So I will go back and I'll reread the last, I don't know, page and a half's worth
Oh,
of
that's
whatever,
okay. Yeah, I get that.
and then move along. But when it comes to actually writing from beginning to end, I pretty much just pick up the next I just keep going. I might read the previous sentence because I want to make sure that I'm actually making
Right.
sense, but for the
Right.
most part, I don't do the rewriting. But I will if I think I'm going to have to cut half a scene or something because this is just not working. I'll reread that scene, cut out all the stuff that's supposed to keep going or whatever. But more times than not, when I get there, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I
Yeah.
I actually do like that. What was I thinking last night? But
Yeah.
even better, when I go looking for a quote from something that I wrote 5 years ago, I
Mm.
will be reading through, trying to find stuff. I'm looking for these little, quote teasers. And all of a sudden, I'll be like, I wrote that sentence.
I
Wow.
know. I know.
That, what? Really? Okay, Lord, thank you for that one because clearly I wasn't present when that came out.
Well, see, and it makes you realize why people believe in the muse,
Hmm.
because and for me this is worlds, and I'm not just saying this because I'm like promoting Worlds Collide right now, even though I totally am, but this is 100% true. When I will be in like a worship, especially at church, if I'm in when we're doing worship, or even often, so I take notes while the pastor is speaking because I listen
Yep,
much better if I take notes.
me too.
And God whispers in my ear, it is always about this story. It is, and it has always been about Worlds Collide. And or when you just have those moments of that
Yeah,
really doesn't feel like it came from me. And
right.
it's like magic, except I mean we know it's not magic. Some people would call it the muse, some people would call it divine, some people would call it the subconscious. And I actually don't think that maybe those things are as separate or different as we possibly think, right?
Right.
But it's the best. I mean, when you
Yes.
experience that, for me, it is often. And I wonder, did you write late at night? You must, because you said you go to bed right after or something
Yeah, I
like
go
that.
to bed at 6 in the morning, so I'm writing all
Oh
night.
man. Okay. Oh, you're my people. Look at you. Well,
Yeah.
do you have this experience? And maybe not if you're going to bed at 6, but so for me, often it will be writing for a long time until I just can't, and I'm so tired. But what I have to do, sometimes I'm good about this, sometimes I'm not. I can't put on a podcast, which is usually what I would do. I can't listen to an audiobook. I can listen maybe just to instrumental music while I go upstairs, get ready for bed, and that sort of thing. And if I keep my mind quiet, things will just come while I'm
Yep.
washing my face. Or when my
Yep.
poor wife, I'll lay down in bed and all of a sudden something will hit me and I got to grab my phone. And she's here, and it's
Yeah.
me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And you're not trying to think of the stuff. It's just coming to you, and it's just
Yep.
that your mind is just continuing to work on it. And it's
Yeah.
magic. It's
Fortunately,
great.
because I'm going to bed at 6 in the morning, my husband's off at work.
Yeah.
So I am
You're not
like,
bothering
I'm like
anybody.
jumping out of bed, grabbing my phone,
Right.
and then just sitting there and I will talk it out. I will just talk it all
Yes.
out into Otter and let it spew a whole lot of hilarious stuff I mean, most of it's there, but I have to translate a few words because it'll come up with some crazy stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I did not say that word. I
Right.
did not.
Well, and I got to tell you, oh, okay. This is a Because Fiction podcast exclusive. I haven't said this anywhere yet, and I probably shouldn't. So I already know the titles of book 2 and book 3. The I can't wait to tell more people the story of the title of book 3. But what I will say is that Steve and I were on the phone and we were talking through it. My original title for book 3 had to change, and I knew it had to change. And the title that we came up with on the call was A Complete Accident. And it was just like it was the person who said it. Well, Steve said it. He didn't mean to say that word, but he did. And we were like, wait a second, that would be awesome. And it was just kind of one of those moments. And now I can't wait for people to hear the title of book 3. But that stuff is
I'm going to be watching for it now. I'm like,
I know. And you only have to wait like 2 years. So
yeah, no big deal. Some people. Right. But yeah, titles are weird for me.
Okay.
Because I literally can't write my first sentence without a title I could use if I had to. I don't know why.
I think I probably am the same way. That makes sense. Cool, because you got to kind of know what your book's about.
Right? Well, and it's funny because I can't put in a place filler title. I can't do, super great book or and even after I come up with the title, I always think of it as the name of the main character. I wrote about Aggie, I wrote about Willow, I wrote about Dylan, and that it's Dylan. That's in Dylan, and they're like, what book is that? And I'm like, oh, okay.
So you do change your titles a lot then. You might.
No, I don't. I don't change my titles at all. But well, that's not true. I do occasionally change them, but usually whatever I come up with, I have worked really hard on, and I've gotten the right one for that book.
Right.
Once in a long while, I'm like, oh, this is better and this fits better. I need to stick with that. Okay, we'll move over. But it has to be something that I could use.
Okay.
If it's not something I actually could use, my brain knows it's not the title, and therefore it's not giving me anything until I give it a name.
Wow. You are real. I mean, I thought I was like ordered because I'm kind of like you. I think I can write out of order. I can skip a very small part if it's giving me problems, but for the most part, I don't think I can write out of order either. But you really have to have it. You really have to do the things one after the other then. Although I kind of get it though. No, I'm not sure. I don't know if it's weird though. I mean, that's just the way your brain works. Because I'm trying to think if I've ever written something without a title. The original title of Steelfire from the Gods was Cyborg, and it was Cyborg for a long time. And I knew that wouldn't be the title, but I think maybe it was like, good enough for now.
Yeah, but it could have been.
It could have been.
It is something that it could have been a title.
It could have been, just not a great one. Yeah.
No, but it doesn't, it's not super great book,
Yeah, that's true.
I know I have a lot of friends that they will use that kind of thing. They'll be like,
no,
or they'll put a trope in. I've got a few romance friends. They will put the trope in, Grumpy Sunshine in Small Town, and that's their title. And I'm like, it could not happen. I couldn't do it. My grump would be shooting the sun right out of the sky if I tried that.
Hey, that's a pretty good title. Shooting the sun right out of the sky. I would flip through the first few pages of Shooting the Sun Right Out of the Sky. See? Longer title. There we go. Yeah.
It works. Oh, goodness. Okay, so now I do have to know, though.
Okay.
Faith-wise, what are we going to see in Worlds Collide? Because, I mean, we're dealing with fantastical sci-fi worlds, and yet are we? Or
So faith-wise, I never go into a book thinking like this is the thing that I'm really trying to say. I really don't. Now the way that this has worked out was that I told you that Steelfire was about a crisis of faith. So Steelfire was the story that I needed to tell myself at the time. I didn't know this at the time either, but Echo Nova, which is my second book, was the thing that I most wanted to say to my sons. So I have 2 little boys. One of them, matter of fact, when I first wrote Echo Nova, neither of them were born. But I have since realized this is what I want to tell them, which is essentially that you don't need achievement and notoriety to have worth. We have worth in the eyes of God, and anything that we achieve is a fruit of that, not the other way around.
Yes.
Worlds Collide is the thing that I most want to say to the world. And that is that there are battles to be fought, but that the battle lines are not often where we think they are, and that the enemy seeks to divide us. And I'll leave it at that, because that I don't want to say too much more than that, but that is what Worlds Collide is about. And I believe that strongly. And I feel like I see that all the time. my, I wasn't really raised in the church. I wasn't really raised in a Christian home. And so I think I have a little bit different perspective. I came to faith a little bit late. I was about 17, but I think I have a little bit different perspective on a lot of things. And I see so much division that I think is needless. And it's because
Yeah.
we can become so isolated in so many of the things that we use. And I'm not anti-tech. I'm not anti-social media even. Well, more and more so maybe, but it's just so easy for us to get so isolated. But when we actually just are encountering other people and just having honest, I believe in honest and generous, I say generous conversations, which is, I really don't think I agree with you, but I'm at least going to give you the respect of believing that you probably feel the way you feel and think the way you think for some reason.
Right.
And when we have those kind of conversations, it's amazing the type of common ground that we can find with people. So, but again, I believe the enemy seeks to divide us. He doesn't want that to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's the interesting thing about people's beliefs. People don't believe what they believe because they picked something out of a hat because they needed something to believe.
Yeah.
They have reasons for
Yeah.
it.
Right.
And if I can understand their reasons, I may not change my mind,
Right.
but I might.
You
But
might.
I may not change my mind. But that
Right.
doesn't mean I can't respect the fact that they came to their understanding because reasons.
Because,
know?
and often those reasons are because somebody hurt them, you know?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
a lot of times it can be things like that. And I don't know. I mean, yeah, I could go on and on and on, but I'm afraid I start
Right.
giving away too much even about the book. But yeah, I
Well,
totally agree with
one
you.
of the things that I've written so much into all of my, and I've never articulated it. I've got it sitting in a book I'm working on. I've never articulated it in a short thing, but basically the whole premise of the faith in my books really boils down to why is it that Christians are more concerned about and focused on converting people to their particular understanding of theology than they are to Christ.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's really when I realized that, I came up with that because I was having a bad day one day. And I'm like, seriously, why is their brand of theology more important to you than the fact that they love Jesus? What
Yeah.
is wrong with you? I mean, not
Right.
that I think it doesn't matter that what we believe. I'm not saying that.
Sure.
But it's like, why are we trying to take the saved and save them to a theology instead of reaching the people who aren't even saved?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. But when I thought of that and I was really sitting with it, I was like, that's pretty much all I write.
Mm.
It's in everything. And I didn't realize it until that moment. 130 books later, I'm going, wait a minute. It's just so stupid.
Yeah.
But it's so important. And what you're saying right there, that's what I was hearing. I'm like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, I don't know if it's in our nature or I don't, it's,
I
and
think
it's
it's
also
how Satan is trying to divide us.
I think so too. I really do think so too. And you're missing out on so much. You're missing out on so many rich experiences when you're from a distance from someone that you think is so much other than you and so different
Yes.
than you. And the truth is they're not, and so in a lot of my experience as well, something that I talk about sometimes is, so I go to a lot of conventions that are certainly not faith-based conventions and conferences. And I think because of the way I grew up, I tend to feel very comfortable in those places. And one of the things that is, and I'm interacting with all types of people who believe all types of things, people who LGBTQ, people who are pagan, people who are Wiccan, and everything else. And I don't feel like I have to hide my faith from these people at all. But I do approach people the way that I believe that Jesus did and would, right? Which is with love, which is with kindness, and which is with respect. And I have fantastic conversations with them. And I a lot of the people who have made certain choices, I can just tell you that there are reasons why they've made the choices that they have. And I certainly don't agree with a lot of their worldviews. But the truth is, I'll still call them my friend in a lot of ways, because a lot of them are very kind people, very caring people,
Yes.
and it's just, and again, I think that some people could say some things about that, about you have to be careful the company you keep. You have to be careful the ideas that you put in your head. And you're right. You're right about you're right about all of those things. And the only thing that I can say to that is, please do pray for me, because I'm out there and I'm having these conversations.
Right.
But at the same time, I also can't deny what I see before me, which is that even in some of these people who I know do not believe in Jesus, I see very Christ-like behaviors. I see people who are just
Yep.
very much willing to put someone else's needs ahead of their own, very much in favor of treating someone the way that they would want to be treated. And of course, then I want to grab those people and be like, you're already following Jesus. You just don't realize it.
Right?
But yeah.
I do remember talking to, she was actually a Wiccan. We used to chat online now and then. And she was so funny. She said something, I can't remember what she said. And it was not the first time that this had come up. And this time I was just like, you follow Jesus's teachings with more consistency and sincerity than I often do. And I claim him as my Lord.
Yes. Better Christians than I am in a lot of ways. Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Totally agree. And it's like, and also, by the way, you're missing out on the good part. You're like already doing the hard stuff, and you're missing out on the good part, which is all the grace, And yeah, I totally,
so good.
It's
just so good.
Agree.
Oh, I love it so much. So we have book 1 out. We've got book 1 coming next summer, I'm assuming.
I actually, and I'm not just being coy. I think so. Sometime. I actually don't know the release date for sure of book 2 yet. So yeah, sometime next year.
And assuming that book 3 comes out the following year.
Oh, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. So
yeah, we'll get to work. I mean.
Hey, it's written. Well, book 3 is written now. Is book 3 good? I don't know. Ask me again in a few months when I go back to it. But yeah, so it's and I'm doing some things. So, but by the time this comes out, I'm releasing a 6-episode podcast series that introduces people to the whole universe. There's one kind of introductory episode, and then one episode for each of the 5 worlds, giving like some mythology from each of the worlds, which is a lot of fun. And it's the kind of thing that you don't need to listen to understand and appreciate the novels. But if you would like to go deeper, that's certainly there. So
I love it. That just, yes. Okay, we're going to need a link to that for the show notes because reasons.
Yes,
we need all the things.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, totally.
And now I have to know, do we know what we're doing next?
Oh, wow. I don't know for sure. So with Worlds Collide, I loved Steelfire from the Gods. I loved Echo Nova. Those are both very personal stories to me. But Worlds Collide is the story that I've always wanted to tell, and I've been trying for a very long. And we could do a whole other podcast about the publishing experiences that I've had with this book before it finally landed at the right place. Right now, it is 100% of my focus. Do have another very, very small, and it's still a novel length book, but very small in my eyes book that is still within the speculative fiction genre for sure. And it's kind of a love letter to my days spent playing in a rock band, a local rock band. I'll just tell you what it is. Whatever. Who cares? I wrote a book. It's about 4 kids trying to become the biggest rock band in the world 15 years into the zombie apocalypse. And it is my love letter to being in a rock band around Atlanta during my 20s. And I might put that out, and I don't know how I would do so yet. But that book may come out. But right now, I'm just so focused on this one. Like I'm leaving everything out on the field with Worlds Collide. Like everything that I can put into it. So no, okay, and don't get me wrong. Faith is first, and then my family. I have a wife and kids, and they're the most important things to me, right? But after that, it's Worlds Collide, and that's really all I'm focused on at the moment. Yeah.
Yep. I love it, though. I love that you've got this book that just has your heart, because how often does that not happen?
It does. But don't give up either. There were so many times when I thought this was never going to happen, and now, I mean, I couldn't imagine a better home for it than Enclave. I'm so glad that these are the people that are helping me tell this story. And I'm so proud to be doing this book with them. So yeah, so don't give up, right? Because people will tell you, maybe you should set that thing aside. Maybe you should set that thing aside. And I actually did set this aside for a while. And I think it was for the better. Worlds Collide is asking a lot of the reader because I am switching between multiple characters. And I do think it's a better thing that I had 2 standalones come out first, to hopefully earn a little bit of reader credibility. So I think things worked out the way that they should.
I love it. Oh my goodness. Well, when the next books come out, we want to hear more about it, because yes, but also we also want to know where God takes you next, because he's clearly given you something really cool here, but we want him to keep giving you
Me too. That'd be fun. That'd be good. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh goodness. I'm so excited. Okay. So for readers who are wanting to know more about
Yes.
the podcast, more about this, more about your other books, where are you
Just
going
go
to
to
send everybody?
clinthall.com. That's the easiest thing. And I'm Clint Hall on Instagram. So I'm easy to find. If you go to either of those places, you'll find everything else. The podcast is called The Experience, Conversations with Creatives. It is just that. It is a super informal conversational podcast. I just have on creative people that I think are interesting. Right now, as we're recording this, the podcast is on hiatus for the summer, but it'll start the new season in should be September of 2026.
Guys, it'll all be in the show notes. So, come September, I'm going to be listening. I'm just saying. Although I will probably go back and listen to whatever's out that I haven't heard yet, because yes, and all the good things. But Clint, this has been so much fun. I've been looking forward to this ever since I found that I had actually 2 of those books. I found the first one. I was like, I wasn't even really paying attention to the author. Just type it in, this. Okay, good, next. And then when I went looking for the next one, I was like, oh, that's the same guy. And look at this.
Well,
I was really excited. And then I went, wait a minute. I think he's coming on to chat. And then I got really
I
excited.
love so much that you chose to put it in the hands of a young man. I don't really think of an audience when I'm writing books. However, I've had so many comments from parents being like, my teenage son really loves reading your books. Again, I didn't start really going to church seriously until I was a teenager. I was saved when I was 17 years old. And I think I have spiritual arrested development. Like in my mind, a piece of me is still 17. And so I do think that I have a heart specifically for that audience. So I love that you put it in the hands of a young man, because I remember how important it was. It was so important that being that age to have things that were faith-based, but that you also thought were cool, like legitimately cool,
Right?
And so and we had a handful of bands. We had a handful of bands that were cool, and a couple things here and there, but we didn't have enough. Right? We needed more. So
well, there is. I don't know if there can be enough, but I think we ought to do our best to try.
That is well said.
I think Trish Goyer's doing that with her son.
Nathan.
They created a really cool.
Trish is the best,
too.
by the way.
Another enclave, guys.
Trish is the best. She's an industry and a half. She's amazing.
Awesome. Yes. She is absolutely amazing. But my guy comes into that store. He lost a bet. He has to ask for a recommendation, and he has to read whatever they recommend to him. And he is terrified that they're going to say the Bible, because that's a long read. And the guy's like, well, do you have any at home? And he's like, well, I got 5. And he's like, yeah, you don't need another one. And that's when he gives him your book. And I was just like, give this kid something he actually wants to read. Because if anyone understands wanting to be able to actually want to read a book, it's this character, Judah. So he's just like, here, you can have my arc. And if you don't want to keep it when you're done, I'd love to have it back so I can finish it.
Thank you so much for that. That is incredible. Wow.
So cool. And so, like I said, it was really, really fun to go. I get to talk about this and find out the story about this book. And the story behind this book is way better than I could have ever imagined. And that just made my day. So thank you so much.
This is so much fun. I really, really appreciate it.
I love it. Meanwhile, guys, I'm going to say have a good day. Go read this good book. You don't have to wait for it. I do, but you don't have to wait for it. And I will chat with you guys next time.